Hi guys, my name is Elise and welcome back to another week with the Foundry Kids and welcome to week 5 of our October series called Cliffhanger. This is the last week in our series and all this month plus all of last month plus maybe a little bit of the month before, we have just been going through the first 2 books of the Bible. So we're actually not going to be finished with the second book of the Bible today, which is the book of Exodus, but we are going to get to a very, very important part of the book of Exodus. And so I'm super excited to share that with you today. But before we start our lesson, we're going to stand up and sing a song.
Everything keeps telling me to quit and not go where I'm going. But I'm never ever gonna stop, and there's no sign of slowing. Ooh, now moving backward. Ooh, I'm moving forward. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power and it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. I'm committed to your plan, so I'll follow all of my days. Every day you give me strength to follow after your way. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power and it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. Yeah, you give me the power. Ooh, now moving backward. Ooh, I'm moving forward. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power and it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. Yeah, God gives me the power. You give me the power.
Today, we are talking about Moses, just like we've been talking about for the past few weeks. And today, we are talking about a time when Moses was leading God's people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. And things were still kind of hard. They got to a point where they thought they were going to be stuck and they thought they were going to be in so much trouble because they were stuck. But guess what, guys? God did a huge miracle. He did something so big. And because Moses listened to God, God was able to work through Moses and do this super cool miracle. And I'm really excited for you guys to learn about this miracle. So let's go ahead and watch a video about it.
It's time for
The story before the story.
Today, we're in the second book of the Old Testament, Exodus.
God made a plan to bless the whole world through one family, the Israelites. But for hundreds of years, the Israelites had been enslaved in Egypt.
They cried out to God for help, and God sent a man named Moses who faced down the king, Pharaoh. After a lot of crazy plagues, Pharaoh let the Israelites go.
But even though the Israelites were free, they're not yet safe.
And that's where our story starts.
Hey everyone! Okay, so as we all know, the Israelites were all packed up. Thousands and thousands of people, families, kids, herds, and flocks. You can imagine, they couldn't move very fast. God was leading them every step of the way, away from Egypt, appearing in a pillar of cloud during the daytime and a blazing pillar of flame at night. At last, the Israelites came to the Red Sea, which stood between them and the desert road to Canaan. But while the Israelites set up camp along the shore of the Red Sea, back in the palace, Pharaoh was having serious second thoughts.
What have we done? We've lost all our workers. Prepare 600 chariots at once.
Pharaoh jumped in his chariot and led an army of chariots and horsemen racing across the desert after the Israelites. The galloping horses and rattling chariots kicked up clouds of dust, and soon the Israelites could see them coming. There was no way they could outrun the Egyptian army. The Israelites were trapped.
Why did you bring us out in the desert to die?
It would have been better to stay in Egypt than die out here.
The Israelites wanted to give up, but Moses kept his eyes fixed firmly on God.
Don't be afraid. Stand firm. The Lord will save you today. The Lord will fight for you. Just be still.
Right there, in a place that seemed like a trap, God spoke to Moses.
Hold out your walking stick. Reach out your hand over the Red Sea to divide the water.
Divide the water? Okay, that is not what water does. But God's presence in the pillar of cloud moved from the front of the Israelite caravan and stood behind them all night to block them from view of the Egyptians. Moses reached his hand over the sea. Through the night, God sent a strong wind to push back the waters. Soon, the Israelites faced a dry path right through the middle of the Red Sea. I mean, can you imagine what it must have felt like? You're at the edge of a vast sea, but straight ahead the water just boop, splits. I mean, ginormous walls of water rise up on either side of the path before you. Sure, I mean, you want to escape the Egyptians, but if you walk along this path, the waters could fall on you. I mean, it must have taken every ounce of courage and grit they had. But the Israelites followed Moses along that path, straight through the heart of the sea. All night, those families hurried toward freedom. But the Egyptians gave chase. They followed the Israelites right into the Red Sea. At last, the Israelites made it through. But the Egyptians were right behind them. God spoke to Moses again.
Reach out your hand over the sea.
As Moses reached out his hand, those walls of water began to crash down, and the sea rushed back into place, washing over the Egyptian horses and chariots. The entire Egyptian army was swept away. The Israelites were left safe and dry on the far side of the Red Sea. Moses' sister Miriam led them in a song of celebration.
I will sing to the Lord, he is greatly honored. The Lord gives me strength and protects me. He has saved me.
The end.
Whoa, things must have felt so out of control for Moses and the Israelites.
Oh, for sure. But God was in control the whole time. God opened up a way for them to just keep going.
So, what's our part in this story?
Well, there are some times when you feel stuck, right? Like maybe one particular subject at school is super hard for you and you feel like it'll never get easier. Keep going. Because God knows what you're facing. God will walk with you the whole way through.
Or you're just starting in a new school and you haven't been able to make friends just yet. Don't give up. God can help you find friends when you least expect it.
And best of all, God gave us Jesus to show what it looks like to keep going.
Exactly. I mean, Jesus didn't give up loving us, even though it cost him his life. And when we follow Jesus, we have the power of the Holy Spirit to keep going too.
That is amazing news.
Isn't it? All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye, Erica.
Wasn't that story crazy? I mean, first of all, they had God leading them through the desert. They could see God. Isn't that crazy? That would have been so cool. God was leading them through the desert as a pillar of fire at nighttime so that they could see him, and then during the day he was a big cloud so they could see him, and I think that's really cool. But then they got to a part that would have been really scary. Man, there was a lot in this story that would have been really scary. Last week we talked about the plagues. That would have been scary. But they got to a point where they were trapped. They thought that they didn't know what to do. There was water on one side, and then there were the Egyptians on the other side, and they didn't know what to do. But God knew what to do, right? And that's the whole point of what we've been talking about. We can always trust God because God will always be there for us, and God always knows what to do. So, what did God do this time? He had Moses split the Red Sea so that they could walk across on dry land. Man, that's a big miracle if you ask me. So, guys, I want you to remember to hold on because God knows what to do and God is always going to be there for you. One more thing before we go. It's the last week of the month, right? Which means it's the last week for our memory verse. And this month's memory verse was Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. So let's say it one more time before we start a new memory verse next month. And it says, "Let us not become tired of doing good. At the right time, we will gather a crop if we don't give up." Galatians 6, 9. So I can't wait to see you guys next week. We are going to be learning about so many new things next month, and I'm so excited to share them with you. And of course, we're going to have a new memory verse. So come back next week, and I'll see you later. Bye.